First, it was the fraudulent Minnesota Leering centers. Then it was the phony hospice operations in California. And now a new fraud being exposed. The DOJ dropped an indictment late today against one of the left's most cherished so-called anti-discrimination watchdogs. Wire fraud, bank fraud, and big trouble. The Southern Poverty Law Center, long treated as the gold standard by academics, corporate America, liberal politicians, of course the media, is now facing serious criminal charges for the way it solicited, spent, and banked donor money to supposedly advance their mission of exposing and dismantling extremist groups.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
Whoops. Well, the DOJ claims that the SPLC set up financial channels that donors were led to believe supported the anti-discrimination work, but in fact were used in some cases for illicit purposes. Over the years, when the SPLC held itself out to be noble and nonpartisan, standing bravely against extremism, it published lists that shaped hiring decisions, banking relationships, and even some law enforcement priorities. And yes, I know this firsthand. Back in 2008, when I hosted a nationally syndicated radio show, it labeled me, I love this headline, right-wing radio's high priestess of hate. I took it as a great compliment, of course. That wasn't because I endorsed violence or extremism, but because I'm a proud conservative, especially on the issue of immigration. So they've always been the real haters of strong border enforcement, traditional Christianity, of conservatives who are vocal and effective. Well, the chickens may finally be coming home to roost.
Between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. After SPLC paid members of these extremist groups, it created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to. And to that end, it was doing the exact opposite of what it's told its donors it was doing. Not dismantling extremism, but funding it.
Here exclusively, Acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. Mr. Acting Attorney General, how did they get away with this for so long?
I mean, it's a great question. I said today during the press conference that we know that this investigation was opened during the Biden administration and then mysteriously closed. I really don't have any information about why it was closed. And then we started again last year, the FBI did, working with the U.S. Attorney in Alabama. And it's extraordinarily egregious. You just talked about it. But imagine a donor to the SPLC if they were told, by the way, we're going to give the money you're giving us to the Ku Klux Klan. Okay? Like, in some cases, over $1 million. I mean, it's incredible.
Now, they say they're no longer using these informants in this way and that it was necessary because they had all sorts of threats against the organization, firebombing threats, and other acts of purported violence. And that's why they had to use these informants. And to that, you say?
Well, to that I say, for one, the indictment charges all the way through 2023. So I'm here to speak about what they're doing right now, but that indictment charges a long period of time through 2023. And second, and more importantly, there's no allegation or information in the indictment that suggests they shared that information with law enforcement. They have communicated.
They said they did.
Well, they have communicated when they so chose with law enforcement over the years. There's no information that we have that suggests that the money that they were paying to these informants and these members of these organizations, they then turned around and shared what they learned with law enforcement. To the contrary, or else we would have known from their own words that they had given this money to these guys, and we didn't know it.
What about Charlottesville and the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally? Were they involved in that?
Yes. So what we allege in the indictment and what the grand jury found is that one of the individuals that they paid was one of the folks who helped organize that terrible event. And so imagine what we're talking about, Laura. We're talking about an organization that actively came out and just screamed it from the top of their lungs.
So just so people understand watching this, did these informants in some cases, given the evidence you've seen, actually initiate what would ultimately be these activities? And obviously Charlottesville ended with a tragedy.
Well, we know that they were part of those. They were part of it. Whether they were the leaders or the initiators, that'll come out, I think, eventually. But what we do know is that the very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to these entities and these individuals associated with those groups.
What was the money used for?
Well, we don't know, because again, all we know is that they set up these fictitious bank accounts.
Fake names, like the Constitution Group or whatever it was called. Then they had one called Fox Photography.
Right. Completely fictitious as far as the investigation has shown, and they were using it simply to funnel money to these individuals. The indictment talks about a situation where they paid an individual to steal documents from the organization and then return the documents, and then when somebody else took the hit for it, they paid that person too. To take the hit for that. And so
But again, why were they doing this? Like this imperial wizard of the United Clans of America, that was one of the informants? So was that an agent of the U.S. government, effectively?
Look, all we know is that they were fundraising every day on their websites. And
but they made
ways.
the problem, to me, and I just read the indictment, they made the problem probably look worse than it was, with the informants kind of egging people on. To me, that's what it looks like. You'll find out more.
We'll find out more, but you're right. I mean, that's the point. Why did they want to raise so much money? They needed people to choose to give their hard-earned money to this 501c3 charity, and then they took that money and they diverted a big chunk of it, over $3 million, over 2014 to 2023, to the same individuals within the organizations they were against.
Why no individuals named in a criminal indictment? Why is it just the organization itself?
Well, I said very clearly today, this investigation is ongoing. As these investigations go, when you're ready to charge a company, there's a lot of it's important to do that. It's important to do that even if the investigation is continuing, and so that's what we did today, but the investigation is continuing.
Now,
I just got paid $62,000 for my car accident using nothing but...
Now, folks on the right want to know when we're going to see progress in investigations of Brennan, Comey, Clapper, and perhaps given what we learned about his desire to ignore the intel community in 2016 and 2017 on the Russia issue, Barack Obama. What can you say to people tonight about the progress of these investigations? People want indictments and they want accountability for Crossfire Hurricane and the Russia investigation.
Sure. So what I can say is the same thing we've been saying all along. These investigations have to be done in secret. They cannot be done in the open, and not only because of grand jury secrecy, but it destroys the integrity of the investigation. We have great people working on all of these issues, really smart people, and we're going to continue to do that work, and when there's an appropriate time to talk about it, we will.
Yeah, I mean, people just feel like if the government can actually do this to a sitting, a candidate, and then undermine his presidency, these people claim they're for democracy and protecting democracy.
It shakes the heart of our democracy to understand what happened, and I never will be critical of anybody saying we need to hear more, we need something quicker, because it's true. If these allegations, what we've heard, is
10 years
very
ago.
troubling, and
It's
it's a
10
long
years
time
ago.
ago. It's a long time ago.
People are like, move on. I don't see how you can move on from this.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
By
So
the way,
we're working.
we have late today, the SPLC came out, in defending itself, saying essentially this is all political. This is a political move on the part of your Justice Department to try to shut down their organization, which has been in their view, obviously a very effective organization against hate and extremism. To that, you say?
To that I say the indictment's public. Everybody can read it, whether you're for them, against them, whether you've donated money to them, whether you've been critical of them. That indictment is free for everybody to read. And if the takeaway is that that's political, I mean, I think the opposite is true.
You want this job, this Attorney General job?
I love what
Sir?
I'm doing. I love every day that I come to work. Serving in this administration is the highlight of my life and will continue to be so.
I knew you wouldn't answer, but I said he can't joke anymore because now he's the acting Attorney General. Good to see you, sir. Thank you very
Good to
much
see
for
you,
coming in. All right, and can you get those indictments out a little earlier in the afternoon next time so I can read it faster? All right, thank you very much. And coming up, we're monitoring the results in Virginia. Will Democrats get control of Congress? And if they do, it's going to be impeachment number 3, my friends. We'll bring it to you. Be sure to like.
country on that list would be Russia. You know, Russia remains a very historic and sophisticated space power. Yes, they have been hurt by economic sanctions, but they continue to invest in counter space weapons, with the most concerning reports being that they are potentially thinking about placing on orbit a nuclear ASAT weapon that would violate the Outer Space Treaty that they're a party to, and it would hold at risk everyone's satellites in low Earth orbit, and that would be a outcome that we just couldn't tolerate.
I mean, if the worst happened and there was a nuclear detonation in space, what would the impact be?
Yeah, you know, depending on the size of that detonation and where it happened, we could expect that likely immediately within the first several hours to days, probably 1/3 of all satellites in low Earth orbit, and that's an altitude of about 100 miles up to probably about 1,200 miles. That's where the International Space Station is, so it would put at risk those astronauts. It's where the Chinese space station is, those takenauts. And then over the next several months, the remaining 2/3 of satellites in low Earth orbit would degrade and likely fail due to the increased radiation that would be there due to that nuclear weapon exploding on orbit. So all of low Earth orbit would be at risk, and you know that's over 10,000 satellites today with these new proliferated low Earth orbit constellations like Starlink.
And the impact on daily life on Earth?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Patrick. You know, the average citizen around the world probably doesn't think about how space enables their life every day, but if they carry a smartphone in their pocket, they are leveraging space multiple times a day. Whether that's the GPS signal just to get to where they're going, or to summon the Uber to their location, or the autonomous vehicle that is driving them somewhere. But it's also the GPS signal that synchronizes global stock markets. It synchronizes global point of sale purchase locations where you can tap or swipe that credit card to make a purchase. It's the convenience of being now anywhere on the planet and being able to get broadband internet, whether that's 40,000 feet in the air over the Atlantic streaming Netflix because you have access to Starlink, or you're on an oil rig in an austere location, or you're somewhere in Africa and now you can get educational opportunities or commercial opportunities because of this high-speed broadband. And so we don't want to lose all of that and go back to a pre-space age style of living that we've just advanced beyond at this point.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to go back to the Stone Age, so to speak. And all of this is possible with this new weapon. Very interesting. So add this to the EMP threat and join me for the live streams going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about this in a whole lot more in greater detail. Much love.